Your place is not here, girl. The scream cut the noise of the crowd. Chloe squeezed the rope in his hand, the thick leather brushing his glove. She kept her look at the metal gate in front of her. Another voice coming from the stands shouted, "Return to housework." The speaker announced his name with an rehearsed indifference. When the gate opened with a crash, a shocked silence took over the place. Chloe, 28, was the only black competitor in the most important rodeo final of the season. The arena was throbbing with thousands of people, but for her there were only three things: her horse, the rope, and the calf she fired through the arena. This was not just a competition, it was your answer. She grew up in a ranch. The smell of dust and cattle was her perfume since childhood. She was more cattle than any of those men who insulted her. Overcoming stories like Chloe's deserve to be told. If you believe courage has to be greater than prejudice, already leave your like in this video and subscribe to the channel to follow every second of this journey. Enjoy and comment the name of your city and the word justice to support Chloe. The challenge went far beyond winning the prize. The money was essential, of course. He could save the ranch from his family, which was on the verge of being taken by the bank. But the real award was another. It was to shut up the voices that said it did not belong to that place. It was proving once and for all that talent has no color. Her main rival in the arena, Jake, watched her on the other side. He was the son of the event organizer, a powerful man with a smile that did not hide contempt. Jake thought the trophy was already his. What he and his father did not know is that Chloe had a letter in his sleeve, a secret that went far beyond his loop skill. The dust had barely settled after its perfect loop, but the real storm was just beginning. After all, what happens when your greatest victory puts you face to face with the true enemy? The celebration in the arena meant nothing. The real game happened behind the scenes. The area behind the corral was a maze of metal, hay, and nervousness. Men of cowboy hat waved to Chloe with forced respect. Her victory in the first round bothered them. Far from the shouts of the crowd, silence was more hostile. His father, Samuel, was waiting for her near the horse's toe. His shoulders were curved not only by age, but by the weight of a debt that threatened to swallow the ranch. He had a tired smile, but his eyes shone with pride. "I saw what you did, daughter, just as your grandfather taught." He coughed, a dry cough that worried Chloe more than any debt. His health was deteriorating, and the stress of the competition did not help. Suddenly Jake appeared, blocking their path. He spat on the floor near Chloe's boot. "Lucky a beginner," he mocked. "This won't happen again." Chloe didn't answer. He just stared at him with cold eyes. Later, leaning against a fence of the VIP area, was Jake's father, Mr. Davison. He was the owner of the event, the king of that little universe. Davison didn't smile. He just watched, with the power of those who do not need to get their hands dirty. He saw his son's confrontation and did nothing. His presence was a silent approval. Everyone there worked for him, from the judges to the cleaning. It was his world, and Chloe had just disrespected the natural order of things. She was not welcome, and the next round would make it very clear. Hostility is no longer verbal. It became physical. 20 minutes before the next race, Chloe went to prepare her horse, Star. That's when she saw it. The gang, the leather belt that holds the saddle firmly to the horse, was loose. But it wasn't just loose. The buckle had been damaged, sabotaged to loosen under pressure. In a sharp curve, the whole saddle would turn. It would be an ugly accident, maybe fatal. His blood froze. He looked around. Jake and his friends were at a safe distance, watching her with smiles of derision. They wanted to see her fall. Anger replaced fear, a cold and calculating anger. There was no time to complain. No one would believe her. They would say it was a carelessness of her. With her hands shaking with fury, she started working. He used a small knife of his kit to redo a hole in the thick leather and improvise an adjustment, praying that he could handle the tension of the race. Every second told. The announcer was already calling the next competitors. Samuel saw what she was doing, and her face was pale. He walked to one of the event's inspectors. "Someone sabotaged my daughter's equipment." The inspector, a thin and nervous man, looked away. "I saw nothing, Samuel. It must have been the use, the wear." The fear in man's eyes was evident. He knew what had happened, but his job was worth more than Chloe's safety. Mr. Davison's corruption went to the last employee. Chloe was alone. She finished the repair, pulled the strap hard, and set up in Star. Now it was no longer about money, it was about survival. The secret that Chloe carried was stored in a spent leather bag, tied to his saddle. It was his grandfather's diary, Ben Foster. The yellowish pages told the true story of that rodeo. In the 1960s, Ben, a legendary black cattle, and an ambitious young Davison were partners. They built the event from scratch with a handshake. But when the money started to enter, Davison registered everything on his behalf, used legal tricks to expel Ben, and completely deleted him from the story. The diary contained everything: agreements, dates, broken promises. It was proof of betrayal. Therefore, Chloe's victory was so important. It wasn't just to save the family ranch, it was to have a platform. If she won, if she had all the microphones and cameras facing her, she would tell the story of Ben Foster. She didn't just want the prize money. He wanted to restore his family's legacy. The pressure of time was overwhelming. The final round would take place in less than an hour. The bank manager had turned on that morning. The execution of the mortgage would be signed at 5 in the afternoon, the end of the rodeo. If she didn't leave with the prize check, when she returned home, the ranch wouldn't be hers anymore. Everything was interconnected. The debt, the sabotage, the story of your grandfather. Before entering the arena, her father held her by the arm. His eyes were firm. Your grandfather would be proud, not for the money, for the fight. Do what needs to be done, Chloe. At that moment, Chloe understood that even if he lost everything, he could not retreat. The honor of his family was at stake. The arena was electrified. The final round. Chloe and Jake were tied. The winner would take everything. The calf was released. The two horses fired. Chloe was perfectly positioned, the loop turning over her head, ready to fly. She was a second fraction of launching. That's when Jake played dirty. In a brutal maneuver, he guided his horse to the side, colliding with Star. The impact was strong, designed to unbalance Chloe and his horse, an illegal movement that the judges, loyal to Davison, would certainly ignore. The crowd arrested her breath. Chloe was almost overthrown, but her ability was immense. She clung to the reins, her body absorbing the shock, and managed to keep Star standing. However, the collision had an unexpected consequence. The leather bag in its saddle opened with the soul. His grandfather's diary flew into the air and fell with a thud in the sand of the arena. Time seemed to stop. The speaker, confused with the object on the floor, was silent. In his VIP cabin, Mr. Davison got up from a leap. His face, always a cold control mask, suddenly lost all the color. He recognized that beaten diary at the same time. It was the ghost of his past, right there, at the center of his empire. For a moment his composure broke, and his eyes filled with panic. Chloe, recovered from the shock, saw Davison's reaction. She saw the mask fall. At that moment the rodeo competition became irrelevant. The game had irreversibly changed. She now knew, without a doubt, that she had found the weakness of her true enemy. The real battle would start now. The competition stopped abruptly. A rodeo officer entered the arena and took the diary carefully, as if it were a dangerous artifact. Chloe dismantled Star, ignoring the timer, and walked firmly toward the officer. His eyes did not leave Mr. Davison, who was now standing on his cabin, barking orders on a walkie-talkie. The crowd began to murmur, feeling the dramatic change in the atmosphere. Tension was no longer about sport. It was something personal and deep. "What do you think you're doing? Get out of the arena," shouted Jake, furiously at the interruption. But he was ignored. Through the sound system, a judge's nervous voice announced a technical break. Mr. Davison was desperately trying to recover control of the situation. Chloe took the diary of the official's hands. She didn't open it. He just held him in the air for a moment, enough for the cameras to focus on him and for Davison to see him clearly in his hands. Looking at the nearest judge, she said in a clear and tall voice, "I need a minute." It was not a request. It was a statement. Davison's response was immediate. One of his particular security guards, a huge man with an empty look, descended the stairs of the stands and went to Chloe. The intention was clear: intimidating her, getting her out of the public's eyes and solving it behind the scenes. But Chloe didn't move. When the security guard came close, she turned to him and, talking loudly so that everyone around here, said, "We'll end it here, in front of everyone." The challenge was done. The new challenge was not to lock a calf. It was to face Davison's power in front. The security guard stopped her centimeters, her body blocking Chloe's view for the rest of the arena. His voice was low, a veiled threat. "Mr. Davison suggests that it would be of interest to withdraw from the competition." There will be a generous financial compensation for his inconvenience. It was a bribe and an order, all in a sentence. Chloe, who entered that arena hours earlier, focused only on competing, might have hesitated. Perhaps it was feeling afraid. But after sabotage, collision, and panic in Davison's eyes, she was someone else. A force she didn't know she had came to light. She was no longer just defending her ranch, he was claiming the story of his family. She looked at the security guard, but her gaze passed him, fixing directly into the window of the VIP cabin where Davison watched her. With a calm that disarmed the security guard, she shook her head negatively. "Tell Mr. Davison that I'm not on sale." His voice was firm, with no wondering trace. "The only prize I want is that trophy, and the truth." Without waiting for an answer, she turned her back on the security guard, kept the diary safely, and walked back to her horse, Star. Each step was deliberate. She set up saddle with a different posture. It was no longer that of a nervous competitor, but that of a warrior who had just chosen his battlefield. The bribe has failed. The intimidation failed. She had been tested in every way and refused to break. Now the only thing left was the final confrontation, and she would face him in her own terms. Chloe's public refusal sent a shockwave around the arena. The security guard retreated confused and returned to the VIP booth to receive new orders. The audience was in a frenzy of murmurs. The announcers stammered, trying to fill the embarrassing silence in the sound system, but no one was paying attention to them. All eyes were in Chloe and in Mr. Davison's furious figure, visible behind the glass of his cabin. Davison was trapped. His attempted bribery and intimidation failed spectacularly in front of thousands of witnesses and cameras. Disqualifying it would now cause a scandal that he could not control. Letting her talk was unthinkable. He chose the only way he saw to try to stifle the situation: the speed. By his earphone, he barked an order to the main judge. "The test resumes. Now." The plan was simple: forcing the final round, letting Jake win, deliver the trophy quickly, and cut off the cameras before Chloe had a chance to take a microphone. He wanted to bury that moment of challenge under the false celebration of a victory of his son. The judge, sweating cold, announced the immediate resumption of the competition. Chloe and Jake were called to the starting position. The atmosphere was dense, almost breathing. Jake looked like a caged animal, his confusion transformed into pure anger by his father's humiliation. The judges looked nervous, avoiding Chloe's gaze. She, however, displayed a scary calm. She adjusted the reins, feeling the leather in her hands. The preparation was over. The final confrontation was about to happen. The gate opened with a crash. The final race. Jake fired, driven by fury. He was fast but reckless, forcing his horse in an aggressive, desperate way to crush Chloe and restore the honor of his family. He represented the brute force, the power that always got what he wanted. Chloe, on the other hand, was the image of technical perfection. She and her horse Star moved as one. Each movement was accurate, efficient, without a drop of wasted energy. The anger that fed her earlier had become a crystalline focus. She was not there to be faster than Jake. It was there to be impeccable. And she went. At the exact moment, his loop flew through the air, a perfect circle that found his target with surgical accuracy. The timer stopped. A shocked silence dominated the arena for a second, followed by an explosion of applause and shouts. It wasn't just a victory. Not only one, she had broken the arena record, a record that had been held for 15 years. But victory in the competition was just the first step. Instead of going to the exit, Chloe guided Star to the center of the arena, stopping directly below the VIP booth. The cameras, the spotlight, all eyes turned to her. She looked up, staring at Mr. Davison's pale face. So slowly she took the diary. A reporter ran toward him, extending a microphone. Chloe took him, and his voice, calm and strong, echoed throughout the stadium. "This trophy means a lot," she started, "but I want to dedicate it to the true founder of this rodeo, a man whose name and legacy were stolen. My grandfather, Ben Foster." She lifted the diary. The checkmate, the chaos was instantaneous. Chloe's statement exploded in the arena like a bomb. Reporters jumped the barriers, running toward him, all shouting questions. In the giant big screens, Mr. Davison's face was frozen in a mask of fury and defeat. His empire of lies collapsed live so that everyone saw it. Beside him, Jake finally seemed to understand the depth of his father's betrayal. his face from anger to empty disbelief. The same men who had shouted racist insults to Chloe now looked in silence, shocked. The boos and mockery were replaced by the sound of hundreds of camera flashes. Chloe remained calm in the center of the storm. With the microphone still in hand, she opened the diary on a marked page. "This page," she said in a firm voice, "contains the original partnership agreement signed by my grandfather and Mr. Davison. Our lawyers will contact us." Chloe's revenge was not violent. It was surgical. It was the annihilation of a legacy built on the mistake. The cash prize would save his ranch, but his courage had returned him the name of his family. She descended from Star and walked through the multitude of reporters until she met her father. Samuel hugged her, the tears running down his face. They were not tears of sadness, but of such pride and relief that words could not describe. Chloe not only won a competition, she rewritten the story. 6 months later, the large plate at the entrance of the arena had changed. Where it was previously read, Annual Rodeo Davison, now read, Foster Davison Rodeo Memorial. The public scandal was devastating. Pressured by legal proceedings and negative media attention, Davison was forced to an agreement. The investigation revealed decades of unethical practices, and the Foster family received not only massive financial compensation, but also the majority control of the event that Ben Foster helped to create. The family ranch was safe. More than that, it was thriving. With the new capital, they modernized the facilities and paid the best medical teams for Samuel, whose health visibly improved without the overwhelming weight of debt and stress. He spent his days doing what he loved most, training a new generation of young knights and Amazonas in the ranch. Chloe became a powerful figure in the world of rodeo. She used her position as a new director of the event to implement inclusion programs, ensuring that the doors she tried to close for her to be wide open to others. Competitions now had a diversity of faces never seen before. As for Jake, he disappeared. Unable to face public shame, he sold his part of the inheritance and left the city. Mr. Davison became a prisoner in his own mansion, his ruined empire not for the loss of money, but for the loss of his name. On the opening night of the new memorial, Chloe stood on the observation platform, looking at the illuminated arena. She was not hatred, just the quiet satisfaction of justice. She had not destroyed a man's legacy for revenge. She had built a stronger new one over the foundations of truth. Chloe's story shows that the courage of a single person can bring down empires built on lies. Her fight was at the arena, but we all face our own battles for justice every day. She reminds us that we should never let the voices of hatred define us. If you watch this far, comment, "I watched the end," to know that you have followed this journey closely. Your strength and support here in the comments motivate us to continue bringing powerful stories like this. Every comment of justice and courage you left gave us more strength to tell this end. But the journey does not end here. We believe that every story of overcoming connects with another. So click on the video that is appearing on your final screen right now. It's another determination story that you won't want to lose. Thanks for watching and seeing each other there.